Too many of our state voters believe that their vote did not count. And obviously, the disorderly election process for the 2020 general election was followed up by a messy 2021 primary election, which only increased our distrust. Given this, I have an obligation as a senator to do everything I can to ensure citizens have faith in our election process. The damage to confidence in our election process will not be undone with time. In fact, it's only making it worse, or the mocking by our opponents. I believe the only way to restore confidence in our election process is to undertake a forensic investigation of both the 2020 and 2021 results. By doing this, faith in our election system can and will be restored. The case for a forensic investigation is pretty simple. In the days and weeks leading up to the election last year, think about this. We had COVID, we had changing election laws, and then we had the Pennsylvania Department of State repeatedly alter the manner in which elections were conducted. This constantly changing guidance not only contradicted the election code that we voted for, but also conflicted with decisions by both the Pennsylvania and U.S. Supreme Courts. That's a problem. For instance, people voting in person were held to a higher, more rigid standard than those who mailed in their ballots. Signatures were required on the mail-in ballots were rendered meaningless when a decision by our Department of State here in Pennsylvania took away the requirement for matching signatures. But voting in person, your signature had to match. None of this makes any sense. The state Supreme Court muddied the voting process by adding 3 days to receiving mail-in votes after Election Day. This was unprecedented and it had no standard in existing law. The U.S. Supreme Court itself had to step in and order counties to segregate those ballots received after Election Day. Then just 12 hours before the general election kicked off on November 3rd, the Department of State once again changed the rules by providing last-minute guidance on how to help voters whose mail-in or absentee ballots were incompletely completed. This late guidance resulted in some counties helping voters who had messed up filling out their votes online, not online, but in mail, and others who didn't get the chance to do so. This is ridiculous. Once again, there was no precedent for this guidance in current or case law. So after action review, or AAR, I've spoken a lot about my 30 years of military service. It's what I did. Most of my 20s, I was in the Army on active duty. All of my 30s, all of my 40s, and part of my 50s, I was serving this country that so many of us love so dearly. During this time, I was lead planner for many operations and exercises, served overseas for 12 years, 4 years with NATO, was in Iraq during Desert Storm, deployed to Afghanistan several times, where I ended as the director of NATO's Joint Intelligence Center. After each of these missions, whether in peacetime or war, we always conducted an after-action review. An AAR is a proven approach to capture lessons learned. We examine what happened, what went right, what went wrong, and what can we do in the future to do it better. I believe this forensic investigation that I've announced today can be applied to Pennsylvania as a sort of after-action review to find out what happened, what was right, what was wrong, and how do we make it better. So why do this? Why should we do this? I think it's evident to most of the people in the state. An overwhelming number of the people in my district and across the state want a forensic investigation to happen. And the jeering and mocking by anyone on the other side will not silence their voices. And letting this drag on just undercuts our republic. Even CNN conducted a recent poll that says nearly half of our voters seriously question the election results. And that's not a result of any conspiracy. It's a result of what happened to them when they went to the polling stations, what they saw or what they heard from friends or family members. I had many of them testify in Gettysburg on the 25th of November in that excellent Senate hearing. And nobody has proven any of those people that testified as being wrong. According to a June poll by Pennsylvania residents by Franklin and Marshall College, it found that 59% of voters in my state think that election laws and voting procedures have so many problems that they need to be changed significantly. So, a forensic investigation in Pennsylvania would be our after-action report. That's it. It's going to be a scientific approach to find out what happened, what went right, what went wrong, and what can we do to make it better. Voters need to know that they can have faith in our election and its results. They need to know they have one equal vote per person, and that's it. The forensic investigation of our election results and processes should be approached in the same way as an after-action review, and that's exactly what I intend. It's going to be scientific without political bias, period. For those who oppose such a forensic investigation, I ask, what are you afraid of? It's not about overturning anything, so let's get those talking points that are so ridiculous off the table. These aren't helpful. It's simply to review what happened, Are the results accurate? For those who are happy with the results, you can beat your chest and say, told you so. It was a perfect election, as so many on the other side are saying. But if things went wrong, we need to get to the bottom of it and make sure it never happens again. And I ask also, what about transparency and accountability? What's wrong with trying to find out what worked with our election and what did not? So as to the authority to conduct a forensic investigation, as set forth in Pennsylvania Senate Rule 14D, each standing committee is empowered with the authority to inspect and investigate the books, records, papers, documents, data, operation, and physical plant of any public agency in this Commonwealth, including county election boards. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania has consistently recognized that the legislative power to investigate is an essential part of the power to legislate. The scope of this power of inquiry extends to every proper subject of legislative action, and that's a quote from Karachi versus Brandamore. Furthermore, as stated in McGinley versus Scott, and I quote once again, the right to investigate in order to acquire factual knowledge concerning particular subject which will or may aid the legislators in their efforts to determine if or in what manner they should exercise their powers is an inherent right of a legislative body, end quote. It's very clear. As a chair of a committee, I am empowered by our Constitution and the rules in the legislative body to conduct and lead, with all transparency, a forensic investigation. A thorough investigation is necessary for the General Assembly also to consider future legislation to reform and amend Pennsylvania's election code. A forensic investigation of our 2020 general election results and 2021 primary results just 2 months ago will go a long way in restoring confidence. As I conclude here, a disorderly election was followed by confusion and distrust that remains today. Answers have not been provided by anyone, whether in the media or from either party. In fact, Governor Wolf went so far as to veto the legislative answer in the form of House Bill 1300 last week. It was vetoed. That was the answer to address many of the concerns. It's gone. And so we're just going to sit by? Or no, we're going to do this as we should as a part of this government. We must work together to counter the damage that has been done to the confidence in our election, period. And talking points and name-calling and mocking does nothing to help this. That's part of the problem. Let's come together on all sides of the aisle, regardless of your party affiliation. And so put aside our petty differences, and let's work together to get to the bottom of what happened. Voting is essential, and it's the bedrock of American virtue. It's the most fundamental right that all citizens in our Commonwealth share. It's time to come together and have an honest review of our past election. And with that, thank you for your time. I'll keep you up to date what's going on. So right now the situation is, of course, this morning I released letters to 3 counties, 1 Democrat county and 2 Republican county, asking for their support for a forensic investigation. This is not an audit, it's a forensic investigation. If the counties fail to comply willingly, my committee will come together at some time later this summer and have a vote to authorize with a simple majority subpoenas to be issued with any counties that are out of compliance. And basically at this point here, this is a round 1. So 1 Democrat county, 2 Republican counties. I've already heard from another county, and I suspect I'll hear from more that want to be part of this. So we might have a round 2 also. And I assess that most of round 2 will be counties that want to be part of this here, because they're honest enough to say things may have gone wrong. We want to identify the problems to ensure that our people can trust the outcome of our election. So much is at stake, and it has nothing to do with sour grapes or not liking the outcome of an election. It's all coming down to the bottom line of, can you trust our election results? Is our election safe and free? Are people being disenfranchised because folks are cheating and casting more than 1 vote? And our goal here is equality and equanimity. We want every single Pennsylvanian to know they have 1 vote. It's an equal vote, an equal voice in this state, in this great constitutional republic and this Commonwealth that we all love. Thank you, and God bless you all.